Continuing our coverage here at the NFL Scouting Combine, I'm Connor Rogers with NBC Sports, alongside one of the best players in this NFL draft class in Christian Gonzalez. This is a whirlwind, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Just enjoying it, having fun. Being able to go through this process. Been wanting to do it since I was a little kid, so it's fun. It's here.
It's awesome, especially when you're a premier player. I think everybody watching this knows the type of talent you are, but I think what a lot of people don't know, your family roots. Dad played college basketball, played semi-pro ball in Columbia. Both sisters, All-American in track and field. How competitive was that household growing up? Like, what is that like when you have these multi-sport athletes from a high level?
The household was crazy. Competing in everything we do, like to the smallest things of playing cards.
Okay.
To we're going to get breakfast and we drive past the park and my dad still thinks he's the fastest. He'll stop the car and make all of us get out and race, and he'll always say, "Oh, my hamstring," blah 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 blah. But that's just how we grew up. Anything we did was super competitive, but it was for the best part of it.
Was there a point in time where you were wondering what sport it was ultimately going to be? Whether Dad played basketball.
Yeah, I grew up played football. I started when I was 5 in kindergarten, but also started basketball at the same time. So it was just I always loved football, always loved basketball. I just loved playing both of them, and I got to a point like around high school. Knew I wasn't gonna be a really basketball player. 6'2" tall, but not basketball height. That's short basketball. So it was. But I love football more. Really, that was where I got my thing, and that's how I went along with it.
I know in high school you also were a good wide receiver as well. And listen, there's just not a lot of 6'2" guys that could run maybe sub 4.4 wide receivers. Do you ever miss that part of the game, or is there more pride in actually shutting them down?
Never when I'm actually like on the field playing, I never wish I was a receiver. But just laying around, like sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, receiver was fun. That's what I grew up playing. Playing offense is, it's all little kids' dream. Just running down and scoring touchdowns. But it is a lot of fun. Being able to take somebody off the side of the field. Being able to shut them down and not let them be who they are.
Did you ask the trail at times in college, or were you guys kind of fixed? Like, I have my side, he has his side. Because the NFL level, we don't see as much of it as we used to, but there are guys that they're confident like that, and they go, hey, let me cover that guy because he's a number 1 wide receiver.
For sure, yeah. I love, like, when I would go in that week and they were telling me I was going to follow, that was my favorite thing.
Right?
That's what you want as a kid. Like, not even just a kid, that's just going back to little league football. This is my man. Like, you're not going to catch the ball, so let's get it.
Number 0. Love number 0. The fact that you wore number 0, but why 0? You just don't see corners out there. See a lot of single digits, but you don't see a lot of 0. What led you to wearing that when you got to Oregon?
Yeah, I was 3. Kind of was my chosen number.
Iverson, or was there a reason, or was it just you like 3?
I like 3.
Okay.
I'm the 3rd child.
Okay.
So I just like 3, but 0, it was the open digit, the single digit, and I didn't know how I felt about it at first, but after I thought about it, kind of around the facility and football field, a lot of people call me Gonzo.
Okay.
So we kind of just played around with it and just made the 0, the O's, so things like that. But I liked wearing 0. It was cool. It was a good change.
You could tell teams here it was because you had no penalties in college, right? I know no penalties at Oregon. I don't remember any in Colorado. That's just a wild stat when you think of it for a corner, especially the way the game is called these days. From a technique standpoint, how did you get to that point where you're not grabby, you're a physical guy, but you're not grabby, no penalties in college? Like, that's got to be a prideful point.
Yeah, that's the technique we do. My coach, Demetrius Martin, he was a great coach. That's what he prided himself on, was technique. Nothing comes from if you can't start with the technique. So we drilled it every day, every single day. Watching it over and over and over. Got to the point where you want to do the technique so well. You're at home in front of the mirror, just doing the little things, barely moving, but just little things like that. And that's what he kind of instilled in me, and especially the whole corner room. So that's how we got that done.
Getting away from football, I've heard through the grapevine you're actually a pretty good cook.
Right.
And, so say you have anything on deck, recipe-wise, ingredients-wise, what are you doing with that? Like, what is your best meal on the table right now?
I'm cooking for myself or people.
Ooh, let's do both. Let's do you first, and then let's say a party of 4.
Okay. So myself, I'm probably gonna go like a little Cajun pasta I like to do.
Okay.
Shrimp, sausage, chicken. Make the sauce. Kind of just make it a little spicy. I kind of like that. And then the group of 4, I'm gonna have to do my research. I'm gonna have to find out what they like. But I'll probably go something more. I'll make a main dish, like maybe like some steaks or something like that, and then throwing some corn, some greens, little things like that, little sides.
What's the routine been like getting ready for this? Because I think so many people, they see what's on TV. They see guys run. They'll see maybe a handful of interviews like this, but they don't get to see the medical preparation, the interview preparation. This is not with people like me. It's with NFL teams. What is your daily routine when you finish up at Oregon and you get here and you got to do day by day to get ready for this?
Yeah, it was a lot, but that's what you want to do. So what we would do is I was in Phoenix training. Wake up, get to the training facility, you eat breakfast, get treatment, you work out, have a little break, get lunch, get more treatment, work out again, have a little break, and got a third workout. And it's just lifting, speed work, and position work. Getting ready for the combine. And when you get up here, a lot changes. You got to go through medical and things like that. You've never really been poked and touched.
Sure, it's a weird feeling
for a lot of times. But it's like I said, it's great though. Like there's no better feeling of being here. So you just got to take the positive mindset of it and just soak it all in.
Obviously at Colorado, you were a good player, but then you transferred to Oregon and you really jumped on the spotlight. Everybody getting ready for the draft, even before the season, became aware who you were. And this, as the spotlight got bigger, you got better at Oregon. What was that transition like, and why that transition? Because you were a big-time recruit, could have went a lot of different places, but just what was that transition like at Oregon to you becoming really a national star this year?
Yeah, that was a big piece of the transfer. I wanted to play on a national spotlight. Just because I knew I did my thing at Colorado, but there's levels to who gets the most views and things like that.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was my time to be able to be on that national spotlight, and it was just always keeping my head level. Not letting what I hear, the positive poison, the bad stuff, mock drafts,
Yes.
all that stuff. Don't letting that get to me, and just keeping my head on straight. Keeping close friends like I always do,
Yeah.
keep them in the circle, and my family that I always talk to.
This is an era, I've been doing the draft for about 9 years now, and we're in this era of big, long, athletic corners, whether it's J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, Sauce Gardner, kind of really jumped on the scene this year. Even going Jalen Ramsey. Are there any guys that you watch or you try to emulate or you look at? Because, every team that you meet with here is looking at you, you're a top 10 pick, you're 6'2", you're going to run well, and to be that next great big corner.
Right. Yeah. Pat Surtain. That's the first one that jumps off. Just being able to how elite of a technician he is.
Yeah.
Like that goes back to what I was saying. About technique. Just watching him and being able to replicate his game. Kind of being the same size, the same type of player. Just being able to do all that is great, and I feel like it's been paying off for me, and I'm excited to get to that level and eventually meet him.
Before we let you go, we know this is a busy week for you. I won't ask the number, but over/under meetings with 20 teams.
We're going to go over.
Over. You heard it there, folks. This is a wanted man in this year's NFL draft. Christian Gonzalez, one of the best players in this year's class. Thanks a lot, man, and wishing you the best of luck.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.